resiliency, just general resiliency, not always in the face of external pressures or economic shifts. I think by building a resilient business, when those market turns come, that's where the resiliency really shows. And I think that means having a diverse customer base, having, if there's contracts in place, having longer running contracts, whatever that means for the specific type of business and space that they play in. Longer isn't always necessarily better, unless longer also means that you have some pricing adjustment ability baked in, whether, like, for example, if you're in a business where you're exposed to fuel prices, can you kind of pass along changes in the fuel prices to your customers, or can you change the pricing to factor for your cost? Or if you're in a consulting business and your cost of labor goes up, the consultants that you pay, that price goes up, can that be passed along to the owner as well? So in that sense, longer isn't always better. I think just general customer service, keeping your customers happy so that they keep coming back, which then is reflected in customer retention or churn rates. How many of your customers are staying with you every single year over year, versus how many are leaving you every year.
Yeah, I think also one of the things we've seen from conversations with owners is, because there's two things, right? If the industry that you're part of, it's recently now the industry, it's so mission critical that even with COVID or a recession, you're gonna keep moving, even keep growing maybe. But if that's the case, we've seen other industries that were impacted by a recession, by a pandemic, and the way they handled it was they knew so much about their industry that they were able to pivot to other business models, other services that were required while the recession, the pandemic was happening, and that made them survive and actually adapt to those scenarios.
Yeah, I think one thing that we ask ourselves often when we look at businesses and different services provided and different products provided is this a nice to have, or is this a must have?
Yep.
And especially in the face of less than positive economic conditions, then must have services or must have products become even more critical. And usually when we see people pull back in their spending, it's usually the nice to have services that are given up first, followed by the quote unquote mission critical services. So if I was a business owner and I was looking to make my business more resilient, that's a question I would be asking myself, is what I'm selling to my customers, do my customers look at that as a nice to have or a must have? And can I get more of my revenue tilted towards the must have services?
Yeah, and I think to go even further than that, something that maybe we don't talk enough is, if you can somehow be or provide a service that it's mission critical, but at the same time it takes a small percentage of the wallet share of the customer, then whenever there's an economic downturn or a recession, when they look at, okay, we need to cut costs, you are way down the list. They'll probably, the first thing they'll look at is whatever represents the biggest percentage on their P&L.
Yeah, so that's the dream. That's like the ideal dream scenario where they can't live without you, and you're such a small part of what they spend that I don't know if overlooked is the right way to say it, but it's just not something that's going to give them financial pressure to reconsider the relationship.
Yeah.
I think this is amongst many other dilemmas, every entrepreneur's dilemma is, especially when you start thinking about investing cash today for a potential future payout. That's what an investment is, right? Versus doing something more short-term oriented to get the cash today. I think it's always a tough decision to make.
Yeah, and I mean, it depends on the business model, right? Because I think part of that is how much working capital do you need. If you manage to have a subscription model where you get money up front for a service you're providing in the future, then you basically are getting a short-term loan, and you can leverage that for growth as well. you.